Okay, Walter, I'm going to try to make a video this morning. I set the camera up to focus on this small area that I've created here. So I'm going to try to explain to you what I wrote in an email this morning. So I just was thinking that I would like to get your input on what I have planned for the lime shaper on the next go around. So this is where I'm at now. I know I'm zoomed out a long ways, but basically you can see, I think, that this is where I'm at now. The front unit is mounted now, which wasn't last time, and I've got it. I've doweled it, put some tapered dowels and a bolt from the bottom, so it's pretty solid. And it didn't fit in the machined area exactly right. It was a little bit complicated machined area. So I have a 5,000 shim in here right now, so I can take this apart, and I'm going to have to find some kind of a epoxy filler to put in there. But it probably, in actuality, it doesn't need anything, but it's something that I need to do. And after this all was mounted, I mounted the ram vertically in the mill on an angle plate, and I milled off the face of this. So this face is pretty true, 90 degrees to the ways. So it should be close. I don't know that that's super critical, but in fact I don't know exactly what is super critical here. But that's what I'm going to attempt to start working on. As you know, I haven't been working on the shaper for a while now. I've been doing some other projects around the shop, so but I'm going to begin the procedure of trying to get this aligned a little bit. So anyway, at least I'm going to start working toward that. Initially, way back when, I checked the top of the cross slide with the little feet that protrude at the bottom of this unit here, and it looked like I needed to shim it up 3 thousandths in order to get the dial indicator to run true across this top area here. The top area was fairly straight. I didn't see any major deviations in that. So what I plan to do now, which I'm a little bit hesitant to do because I remember I had a hard time getting this assembled. I know it seems simple, but the star wheel's in there, and it's hard to get this whole thing threaded through the 2 bridge units and through the star wheel and everything. I don't even remember how I did it. Actually, in the end, it turned out to be a simple thing to do, but somehow my memory's not too good, so I don't remember what happened. But anyway, I've got, and these little bushings in the ends here, as you know, are eccentric. So I've got them marked, and actually I've got them marked well underneath, so as to their location. And I've got a set screw in from the bottom to hold them in place. So that's got to all be taken apart. And what I'm thinking is that the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to scrape the top of this bed so it's true and flat. Maybe maybe I'll scrape it to like 15 or 20 points, so that way I'll have good bearing, and I'll have which I don't need a lot of bearing. There's not a lot of force on it, but and also I'll have some place for the oil retention. So that will be the first thing I do. I'm not sure exactly how to go about this, but I do know what to do as far as getting this scraped in. Then after that, I'm going to turn this unit over on the surface plate, and I'm going to run a dial indicator across the little feet there and get those scraped in, or do some filing if necessary. So the little feet are parallel to the bed. You know, eventually this whole unit will sit on the base, and the base I'm thinking that I need to get the top of the base ground precision ground. That way everything from the base to the feet to the bed are all parallel. Okay, so that way I'm thinking that's fairly critical. After that, I'll start working my way up, and so that then I will scrape the bottom of the carriage to mate up with the base, or with the cross slide unit, and then I'll scrape the top of the carriage, and then I'll scrape the bottom of the ram to mate up with that. And in the process I will need to do some scraping on at least, probably do some scraping on these two dovetails also. This one has some chatter marks in it, and I've actually, most of those are gone because I've lapped this at one point, but it's still not right. So I'll probably scrape that in, because for two reasons. First of all, so it runs smooth, and second of all, so it retains oil. So that, I know you've done some other things to provide some oil slots for yours, but I'm thinking that maybe just the scraping will solve that problem. I don't think it's really a problem, but anyway, that's what my plan is. And so, all this is working great now, and this is the new handle that I replaced the other one with, and it's chrome, and that's unfortunate, but I cannot get something exactly right. But this handle is much nicer than the other one. This part rotates. It's very nice, actually, and it's very symmetrical. It's exactly the right size as far as my way of thinking. So we're good there. And so to this point, I think we're pretty good, but I need to start getting things aligned. So that's what I was trying to explain to you in the email. And I'm gonna try to take this apart, and if I can remember how to do it. I don't think it's very complicated, but let's see. I've got a. There's a couple nuts that lock together here that I made on this end. I think this is pretty much true to the original. Not everything, of course, is exactly perfect, but I've tried to, make things as close as possible to the original. So the other thing that needs to happen is that, let's see, seems like to me, number one, I've got to pull this out of here. And so that'll just pull out, I think. There we go. So there's the ram. I got that out. And then eventually, I'll scrape this surface down here. These two dovetails. I'll scrape in these areas here. This has got a rough spot in it here, so it definitely needs scraped in, and maybe scrape in the jibs. So. All this should be fairly easy, because it all should be pretty close, shouldn't be too far off. I mean, I think we're talking about tenths, so we're not talking about a lot, but we do need to get it scraped in so it's fairly accurate. To get this off here, if I remember right, I need to pull out this bushing down here, I guess. So that requires, I have an Allen, I have a set screw at each end, and I think maybe I just need to pull this one. But I have a set screw at each end. And these bushings are marked. I've got a punch mark on them, so because they are eccentric and they do have to be aligned. So This process of scraping things in might change that alignment somewhat, but as I said before in another video, not this side, but the other side of the carriage is locked in between the lead screw, between the lead screw and the dovetail. So there's not any play in that, you know. So I don't know. Maybe I better sort of start getting this out, but seem to be stuck here for some reason. Let me see what I can do. Maybe I need to, I haven't had this apart since I put it together, because I know it's a bear to get apart, or put back together anyway. Hope those set screws don't just fall out of there. Of course, if I lose them, I guess it's not the end of the world, but okay, I can feel them, they're loose. Maybe I need to get some there. That bushing's loose. I think maybe I should loosen this up too, just to make sure that it's not causing any problems. Oh, I know also what I need to do is I need to also loosen this up. I don't have a, let me loosen these set screws here. Make sure I got this good and loose. Not sure, these locking screws might be a little bit tight. Yeah, they're not. Let's see what I got now, see if I can move this a little easier. There we go. So there's that bushing. And there, I do have the bushings marked as to which is which too. So here we go. Now I got it going. But this thing, I know it's a little bit the fiddle faddle. And getting it back together is not, it's not a super simple chore. Okay, this lead screw is threaded through both bridge units. They're aligned. They're aligned. So they were. So now let's see here. I got to get this all the way loose, I guess. If I remember right now that I'm thinking about it. I got to get the some kind of. I got to take these locking screws all the way out of here and get the jib out. Kind of going about this the wrong way, I'm sure. Okay, so there's that unit. Here's the two bridge units. Though they're threaded. They're both threaded. So that thread is aligned through those two bridge units. Then here's the star wheel. And so let me get a towel here. Clean this. There's oil down in here from assembly, and I didn't want it to rust. It's just sitting here in the shop, so wipe it off a little bit before I do anything. These dovetails look pretty good here. They look nice and straight and smooth. So I don't think we got any major problems. This thing's got oil on it, so I'm going to get oil on my table. But as I remember, and I don't remember which end it was, that but I remember there's some problem. I'm not sure I can sit this on the surface plate and figure this out. Let's see. I can go out to there. I may be able to reach it. So this is off. This should be off because I remember that, let me put this on 0. You can't see this, but I can. This is not a, this is only a 1,000th gauge or dial indicator, so not very sensitive. So that's right. So we got 2,000ths. Well, I grabbed some feeler gauges this morning. I grabbed a 4, a 5, and a 3 because I thought it was a 3, but maybe it was only 2,000ths. So I think before I'm going to use the 3. I put it under that side. So let me put this back on 0 again. There we go. Let me move this down. Oh, maybe I don't need to take much off those feet. Let me take that and take that back out of there again. So that varies 2,000ths. So I'll have to figure that out. But what I'm going to do, let's see if I don't know if I can reach the other side or not. No, see, that's not exactly right either. In fact, that may be a lot further out than I thought. There's this side. See, this got to come up a lot. So, a lot. I don't know how far. It's more than a few thousandths. I don't know why I didn't realize that. It's a lot. So those feet have got to be completely redone. I'm going to have to get some feeler gauges and put under here and figure that out. But I think what I'm going to do, yeah, it's a lot. It's a huge amount. So, unfortunate. I thought it was closer than that, but obviously it's not. I don't know how far it is. So I'm gonna shut the video off right now because this is further out than I thought it was, and I'm going to find some feeler gauges to figure out what I need to do about the base. Probably, you know, trying to set this all up on such a small mill, I probably did this on the TAG, so, and probably I couldn't mill the whole bottom of this thing at one time. I probably had to move it to do that. So that may be the reason. But anyway, whatever the reason, I need to figure out what it is so I know how much I got to take off this bottom to get it perfectly level. I'm pretty sure that these two areas are level. At least I hope they are. So I'm going to shut the video off right now and then I'll turn it back on in a minute. Okay, I'm back. That didn't take but 2 or 3 minutes to figure out what that was. The back of the dial indicator was hitting on the top of the cross light, so that's why it was. I knew I'd checked it before and it wasn't out at all hardly. So let's see. I don't have, my surface plate isn't really big enough to do this, but let me set this at, and I turned this around the other way, which made it a little easier for me to have some room to slide things here. All I'm using is a little Noga arm, and I made a fitting to go into a 1, 2, 3 block. So that's what I'm using to check this with. Not great, and I'm just using a 1/1000th indicator, and it's not that big a deal. Anyway, that's 0 there, and that's out 2/1000 right there. Okay. So this is out about 3/4 of a thousandth on this side. So between here and here, maybe about 3/4, and so 7/10, right? And then this is the same, actually. So this is, this, well, no, this is just a little over 2. So maybe, let's see. Zero this again and move it over to this side. So there is a difference here of a 1/2 thousandth between here and here. Maybe a little bit more than that. So anyway, it's not a huge amount of scraping, but I need to scrape this in. So that's what I've been working on. Actually, one project I've been working on is I bought a piece of cast iron. And let me. I don't have a lot of room here on the table, so let me move some of this. I'll just sit this on the toolbox here. Oh, I'm not going to sit it on the toolbox right now. Something's holding up. Won't let it shut. Oh well. Here we go. Oh, let me move it over here on the other surface plate. So, alright. So what I've been doing here is I've been working on a straight edge because I figured I'm going to need it. So I bought a piece of cast iron and I've been fiddling with this. Let me zoom in a little bit there and see if I can. I got the. Let me move the camera a little bit. Probably it doesn't look like there's a lot of light there. But anyway, I've been working on this straight edge here, and it's just a simple piece of cast iron actually. And I've scraped the bottom. I've scraped all the sides, but basically the bottom is scraped in. So I got a one flat surface, and the 45-degree angle is scraped in. So I can use those two if I need to work on some dovetails or something here. But I may not need this, but I may be able to, do what I need to do without it. But I've been working on this project and a couple other projects actually. I've got an old, my neighbor gave me an old, I don't know why, it's just something to do here, but my neighbor gave me an old height gauge, and it's the only reason I took it was because it's 24 inches, and I have a 12-inch height gauge, but this is the 24-inch height gauge, which is kind of nice to have, I guess, if you need it for something. So it didn't have any scribe with it, and it didn't have the clamp with it. So this thing is so old, you can't find parts for it. So this is not the correct scribe, and this is not the correct clamp. But I did make a clamp for it, which was actually fairly simple. I just took a piece of steel and grooved it out, and took a piece of flat plate and brazed onto the other side. So that created a clamp, put a little knurled screw in it. So that was a simple few-minute project in the one morning. So I got that done. So actually what this needs probably when this was made, they didn't have carbide scribers. So all the carbide scribers have an offset in them. But what this needs is just a straight bar, just a straight scriber, probably high-speed steel that comes out with a ground point on it. So I need to make that. That's pretty simple. This is 1/4 inch, so I can just make that out of a piece of tool steel, piece of lathe tool bit, 1/4 inch tool bit. So that solves that problem. And then actually, if you want this to go down to the surface, so this is the 0 point here, the top of the bar. So if you want this to go down to the surface, or this to meet on the surface, you need one of these with a 2-inch offset in it. So, I'd have to make one out of a piece of flat tool steel, and then deal with it after that. I don't have a piece of tool steel to do that with. It'd take a piece 1/4 inch thick by 2 inches, or a little bit more, to do that. So if using it this way, if I decide to ever have to use it, I can do it, just to figure out what the offset difference is and put it into the calculation. But anyway, those are a couple things I've been doing the last couple days. So I don't have any need for this actually, because I have a good height gauge actually. This is kind of cumbersome to use, this Vertier type, but it is a nice height gauge. There's nothing wrong with it, So everything works on it. In reality, it was just missing parts, and the neighbor was going to throw it in the trash can. So anyway, so that's a little update on what I'm doing. So I've got it apart now. So what I'll begin doing is scraping in the top of the cross slide unit. That shouldn't take too long. I figure I can scrape this in a couple hours, the top of this, and then after that I'll flip it over on the surface plate, on the other surface plate actually, but I'll flip it over and check these feet. And so probably what I'll do is, I don't know what I'll do. I may have to do some filing, or I don't know, but I'll check this and see what I have to do as far as these feet are concerned. Let me zero this out and just see what this looks like. So I don't know if I can reach the other side. Touch, is it? This isn't touchy compared to the 10 dial indicator. No, that's right. Those two are right on. So maybe that's a good sign. I don't know. And this is off 1.5 thousandths, and this is off 2.5 thousandths. So there's some work to do down here. When I get the top scraped in, I'll see what I can figure out with this. Maybe it's not as much as I think, but there will be some scraping to do here. So once this is all perfect, and once it's set on the surface plate, I'll start working up. And I'm sure there's some other problems in these other units too. So, milling all this out on the small TIG mill, mostly, I mean, I have a mini mill that I've done some work on, but those things, this thing pretty much is the max of the table. So when you run this from one end to the other, you've got a chance for error, for sure. So, and the same with the mini mill, it's the same thing. It's only got 12 inches of x-axis travel. So, and when this was, before this looked like this, it was one heavy piece of cast iron. So you're moving a big heavy piece of cast iron across the x-axis to its limits almost on each side. So, and I'm sure the mill isn't trammed perfectly either. Either one of the mills are not trammed perfectly. So anyway, so I hope that makes some sense. More so than the email I sent you this morning. I know that was probably kind of hard to figure out what I was talking about. But that's my plan, and so we're going to be moving forward on this thing now, and at least get some of the scraping done, and then we'll think about. We still have work to do on the handle and the rest of the front unit. It's all, the milling is all done. It just needs to have some detail work done on it. So anyway, that's where it's at. Just thought I'd let you know, and so I'll call off now and post this video on YouTube so you can see where I'm at. I know you're coming along on yours now, so I know you've got the carriage sort of finished and sliding across the cross slide now. So I guess the next step for you will be to get the lead screw working and all that. So hopefully pretty soon you'll be at the same point I am, and you know, two heads are better than one probably. Anyway, okay, Walter, I'm going to call off now.